Dear netizens, this is an urgent message. Donald Trump has done something again that has left me stunned. This is truly a case of shooting oneself in the foot. What did Donald Trump say? He said that the American film industry is dying, and dying quickly. Other countries are attracting our filmmakers and studios to shoot movies outside of the United States. Not in Hollywood or other parts of the United States, so Hollywood and other places have no films being made, turning into ruins. This is other countries banding together to deal with the United States, posing a national security threat. Besides informing people, we also need to promote filming movies in the United States and call on the Department of Commerce, the trade representative, to impose a 100% tariff. Everything coming into our country should be subject to a 100% tariff. We want movies made in America again. This really surprised me. On May 4th, a 100% tariff on non-American-made movies was announced, posted on his own social platform, Truth Social. This means that other countries are attracting American producers to develop locally, causing the Hollywood film industry to face rapid decline. First, I defined what his idea is. He said it's about movies not filmed in the United States. It's not about American movies. There's a difference. If an American company makes a movie in Canada, does that count as an American movie? If the main actors, cinematographer, director, and screenwriter are all American, but the film is shot on location in Canada, does that count as an American movie? If shooting on location in Canada doesn't count as an American movie, does shooting on location in Africa also not count as an American movie? Is that how it is? Does it mean a 100% tariff should be applied? That seems to be the implication. Actually, no matter where it's filmed, firstly, all the profits from the movie are earned by American companies. Secondly, most of the production costs are taken by Americans, and taxes are deducted, because for any movie, the biggest expense is the salaries of the stars, followed by the director, the screenwriter, and all the professionals, which are in the hundreds. All these people's earnings are taxed in the United States. Suddenly bringing up this issue, why is this like shooting oneself in the foot? I'll tell you in the end. Donald Trump wants to impose a 100% tariff, and Commerce Secretary Lutnick said it's being handled. It's unclear whether this targets American or foreign companies making films overseas. He said yes, films not shot in the United States will be subject to tariffs, but they won't just shoot a few minutes, right? If it exceeds a certain percentage, will it be taxed? I'm asking you. All right, let's take a look at the major markets around the world. The global total box office, excluding the pandemic year, is $21.3 billion, $25.9 billion, $33.9 billion, $30 billion, with the US and Canada box office accounting for $8.5 billion US. In the US, it's $8.5 billion US, $2.15 billion outside the US, and 19% in China. 5% in Japan, 4% in the UK, 3% in South Korea. People like watching American films. I first mentioned why would you shoot yourself in the foot? Because this is an industry where the US has a huge trade surplus. The US box office here only accounts for 29% of the world, but it collects money worldwide. Can you guess what percentage of the world's money goes to American film companies? 70, 80%. People all watch American films, making money for American film companies. They haven't made a fuss about it, but now you're making a fuss. If they say we won't watch American films and impose a 100% tariff on them, what would you do then? Who would suffer the loss? The US has a lot of surplus in intangible trade, one of which is the film industry and the entertainment business. You've benefited from it, so don't come out and stir up trouble. Let's take a look at the global box office. The US only occupies this portion, and China is difficult to deal with. China now has many of its own films, which are restricted for you, but Chinese films don't make money in the US. This is the case in most places around the world. The highest grossing films are all American films. The US makes a lot of money every year, especially from global platforms. With global streaming platforms worth $100 billion expected to increase to over $300 billion by 2030. If restricted, Netflix would be doomed. There are two sources of income: subscriptions and ad support, including Netflix, Disney Plus, and Amazon Prime Video, as well as Apple Plus. Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon, and Apple Plus dominate the entire streaming platform market. And then Disney also has the Discovery Channel. Additionally, not Disney, but HBO and others like that. There are countless things making money back on KBOT. This market is 90% American, and it's bigger than the box office, increasing by 21% every year. Now, if Netflix buys foreign films to show in the US, do you have to charge it 100% tariffs? I don't know how to calculate this either. It's quite interesting, and advertising keeps increasing. Global advertising is dominated by American companies, already reaching over $11 billion. What percentage do foreign films hold in the US? Non-American made films only account for 5% to 10% in the US. The total box office in the US in 2019 was $11.4 billion, with foreign films only making up $1 billion. In 2021, the US and Canada had a box office of $4.5 billion, with non-American films accounting for 7% to 8%. Why target these films? Isn't it like shooting yourself in the foot? It's quite funny because, how should I put it, films are a public good. The term public goods means that even if making a film is expensive, like software, the production costs are the same worldwide. So, the more a market is dominated, the more capital there is to make films. That's what it means. The US occupies the majority of the global market. And yet no one accuses them of cultural invasion. No one says it's unacceptable that we lose so much money to the US every year. In the future, each country should make its own films. Tax all foreign films, especially American ones. Not watching American movies won't kill us. People need to understand that. Let's take a look at film distributors in the US. Disney is number one with $1.8 billion. Universal, Warner Brothers, Sony, the top 5 distributors account for 76.24%. We used to talk about the big 8. Now the top 5 account for 76 point something, and the rest account for about 15, making it over 90% for American distributors. And where is Netflix's production located? About half is in North America, with the other half roughly outside of North America. You can't avoid producing outside of North America. Some things are beyond your control. Why? For example, Korean productions are shown in Asia, and many people watch Korean films without them ever going back to the US. How many foreign films are watched in the US? That's the question. Besides Europe, South Korea, Japan, and China are the main international markets for Netflix's content spending. Most importantly, South Korea. These investments not only generate returns locally with local viewers, but also attract a global audience to Netflix's own viewer data. Non-English films account for 30%, with 30% of the world watching foreign films, and 7% of Netflix's revenue comes from American films. The US is making a profit entirely, as Netflix's platform broadcasts elsewhere. Can others charge you a tax on American films? If they start taxing you, I tell you, Netflix will be in trouble, and Netflix's stock price will be in trouble tonight. Because many people buy content on Netflix, for example, buying it back for $100,000 and then splitting the global rights, with the US accounting for $30,000. So, they would have to levy a $30,000 tax. If it's a $300,000 tax, the result would be, how should I put it? There are only two outcomes. One is that the filmmakers sell their films to Netflix for much less money, and they lose interest in making films. Otherwise, Netflix would have to absorb the cost themselves, which seems to always be somewhere in between, and there are even more complicated issues, like revenue sharing. How do you calculate how much to charge based on viewership? The US government collects 100% tariffs. It's like half goes to the US government and half to foreign film distributors, isn't it? Netflix's revenue is quite impressive. In recent years, their stock price has been remarkable. It's estimated that the US streaming market generates billions of dollars annually from foreign-produced content. Now, with these billions of dollars, you want to tax them, collect 100% tax. Isn't that right? If such an assumption was made earlier, the US would impose an 8% tariff on imported films, 100%. Foreign films in the US box office make $500 million. If the new tariff is 100%, they would have to pay $500 million annually. The real impact is that foreign film distributors would earn half as much. Losing $250 million would be a further blow to foreign films that already have a low market share. They might not even bother releasing them, considering the need for dubbing and extensive post-production. The potential taxation phenomenon affects the import of foreign film and TV content on platforms like Netflix and Amazon, bringing in these series. So, they need to tax and calculate how much the royalties for this region would be. Foreign films generate tens of billions annually in the US market, no matter what you say. They could collect tens of billions of dollars, taking $20 to $30 billion if they tax half. If they tax 100%, it would be $20 to $30 billion annually. Originally, the tax was paid by Netflix, so it would withhold the profits meant for foreign producers. This results in significant losses for content creators, especially those who are heavily impacted, like the ones Netflix funds for production. For example, some productions are exclusively on Netflix, where they pay a sum, like $100 million, for someone to produce. Originally, it was $100 million, but now when this film is brought back to the US, which holds 40% of the world market, it would have to pay $40 million in taxes to the US government. This could be detrimental to Netflix, impacting the content supply platform for American audiences. The audience's choices have narrowed, as tariffs have increased the import costs of foreign films, leading to a less diverse selection. There's nothing to watch, forcing people to watch American films. The impact on the supply chain and industry is significant for film distributors and streaming platforms. Tariffs increase import costs. Previously, Hong Kong films could still make it in the US during this period, but with these taxes, they won't be able to in the future. Even if there's time, it won't work out. Platforms can lower the licensing fees paid to foreign film companies or buy fewer films, but they won't do that when broadcasting in the US because they rely heavily on Korean and Indian films to expand the Asian market. This is the case with a good Korean film. It has many subscribers on Netflix in Asia, but when these films are taken back to the US, they incur a lot of taxes. And many of these are Netflix's direct investments in foreign series in Korea, amounting to hundreds of millions of dollars each year. These hundreds of millions of dollars, therefore, are subject to $200 to $300 million in taxes. Cinemas might demand a lower revenue share from film rentals to offset the taxes, which could result in price increases, and price increases would reduce the number of subscriptions. This will definitely provoke retaliation. If you take all the benefits and still bully others like this, they will impose a 100% tariff on you, which is quite satisfying. These foreign box offices, for example in Hong Kong, might impose a 50% tariff on American films, weakening the acceptance of American content in other markets. The overseas interests that have been separated for a long time are not just like this. They weaken America's soft power. The US relies on this soft power, such as film, television, and music. These expand its influence worldwide. This is like cutting off one's own hand, leading to a long-term reduction in innovative and exciting content for American audiences, especially with the popularity of international series and movies on streaming platforms. For example, in recent years, many excellent Korean and Japanese films have won Oscars, which stimulates the American film industry to produce and import these films, similar to Hong Kong action movies. It has severely influenced American action films because Americans liked watching Hong Kong action films and learned from them, but these will no longer exist. As of 2023, films produced in the United States account for 55% to 69.7% globally. You dominate the world, and this refers to box office revenue, not including streaming platforms, where it's over 70%. In 2024, American films accounted for 69.5% of global box office revenue, a slight decrease from 85.6% in 2014. Why? Because China's box office has improved. Some Chinese films have earned more. According to another analysis from Deadline, the global box office totaled $33.9 billion in 2023. Globally, American major companies took in 55% of the box office, earning a lot of money abroad every day. When people come to your place and can't sell, you have to tax them. Is there anyone that foolish? I really don't know how to describe it. Recently, American films have been affected by a lack of innovation, impacting their box office, and business hasn't been good lately. If you keep doing this, in some regions, we can move freely, like in Asia where we don't impose tariffs on each other, but if we impose tariffs on American films, it would dismantle the Hollywood empire.